and welcome to the first ever Zoom interview for the Jodas Hour, usually in the studio, but interviews are back. The first time since October 1st with Evan John Baptiste, we finally have a new interviewee. It's James Hackett, coming from Boston College, playing baseball, Division I level. James, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, anytime. So let's start off with this. You obviously are going to be playing D1 baseball at Boston College, playing in the Northeast. I want to know, what was your journey to this point like in baseball senses?
So I always played like just house league or whatever. Glenview is the town I'm from, so we have like the travel team, like the Glenview Patriots, and I played baseball and pretty much every other sport with like the kids in my grade growing up, and we kind of all like played the same sports together, so it's cool. Like, but baseball always my favorite. And my dad played baseball. He played Division III baseball, and he also played football in college. So I was always like encouraged to play sports, and baseball was just the one that stuck most with me because I don't know, I just love baseball for whatever reason. I love playing wiffle ball like with my friends. That was kind of a big thing that I did. I actually think that made me like a much better player now thinking about it. But that was kind of where like my love for the game came. And then I just played like travel ball growing up and then high school. And here I am.
Yeah, pretty successful journey so far for sure, James. As you said, your dad played Division III. He played at Middlebury, right? Yeah, he ended up going Vermont. You went to Massachusetts, both New England states. So was that kind of in sight for you when you were looking at schools for baseball, or was that not really even thought of as just a funny coincidence?
I think Boston especially has always been a place where I've like thought of as almost like a home away from home because my dad is from Concord and he went to Concord right outside of Boston. He went to BB&N in Cambridge for high school, and my grandparents live in Boston still. So I think it was kind of like a spot where it was like I could play baseball there, go to college there, and feel like I'm still at home, even if I don't know anyone else from the Midwest going there or Chicago. So I thought, um, I thought Boston was just a great spot, like to feel at home, even though I wasn't.
Yeah, no, it's center of the sports world right now. Bruins and Celtics both top in their divisions. Pretty awesome, I imagine, being in the center hub of that. But as you said, you have family out there. I didn't know that before that, to be honest. I'm happy that you brought that up because when you have family, it makes you feel a lot more at home. So as you're focused on Division I athletics, focus on your grades and stuff, you have that safety blanket. It's not like you're just fully alone right now.
It's great because I've also like been here too. I've like I've been I visited my family. I've visited my grandparents a lot, so I kind of like know a little bit more than I would have if I would have gone somewhere else.
Yeah, you see, what I would have guessed since you're from Illinois is that you wouldn't have known any of the layout of Boston. It would have been a little bit of culture shock. That's pretty cool that you ended up growing up with that area. So now you're revisiting it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool because I've always come here for the summers. My grandparents live here, and so I'd visit them all the time. So it's great to be here.
So we're going to throw out some stats for the audience right now. In Illinois, you were the 11th ranked shortstop coming into the year, and you were the number 61st ranked overall player in Illinois, which led to the Boston College Commission or commitment, obviously. So I wanted to ask, when you get to that level, you're putting in the work every single day. You're not a top 11 player for your position in your state unless you're working constantly and constantly. So what was something from your work ethic and your days of hard work that you kind of reflect back on now as being something that's part of you? Like, some people will go to the gym and they'll say that having commitment is part of them from that. Can you really point out any certain traits from the activities that you have done to get to where you are now that have stuck?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that helped me the most, I feel like working hard is one thing, but you can work hard and like you have no idea what you're doing. I feel like the club team I played with, there were a lot of kids in the same like situation as I was, where it's like you're a good high school player, but you want to play in college and you don't really. I didn't play for like the like premier club team. We played, well, in my eyes, it's premier club team, but it's more like you like work hard and you learn from the older guys who were in the program because they were in the same situation as I was, where it's like you're a high school player and you want to play in college and you just got to work hard. So like I feel like learning from some of the older guys in the program that I was in helped a lot, and they taught me not only like how much to work or like what to do, stuff like that. They helped me like with everything really, like how to feel on in certain situations if you're not playing well, or it helped mentally too, not just physically. And I think um without that, I think I would have just gotten lost. Like I would have put in the hard work, but I would have been like, oh, this kind of isn't paying off. They kind of reassured me like they were also in that situation. It was cool to see guys who were drafted or who also played in college and had success in college, that they were in the same situation that I was. So that helped a lot mentally.
Yeah, I think that you can sometimes start thinking that you're the only person who's ever been in your specific situation. But as you said, people have walked those steps before you. They've gotten to where you are right now to get to the next level. So are there any specific times that you can really point out, or a little story you could share of a time where one of the older kids took you under their wing, kind of taught you a little bit about life?
Yeah, I'd say the year after COVID, um, we had on like with the club baseball side, there's a guy named Brent Spillane who played at Illinois. He was the Big Ten Player of the Year, his junior year, and then got drafted. And he kind of helped a lot with not only the baseball mechanics part. He taught me a lot about like how to use my body in the most efficient ways, hitting wise and throwing wise. And he also helped a lot with nutrition. I think that's one spot where I still need to work on, but I really lacked, like I was eating healthily, but I wasn't eating enough at all. Like I was always a super skinny kid, and he was kind of in the he kind of helped. He was in a similar situation nutritionally when he was in high school. Like he didn't really know what to do, and then he when I was there, he was like, "All right, write down every single thing you eat and show me." And he was like, the first time he did that, I brought in the paper. He was like, "What is this? This trash? Like, doing cereal for like dinner? Like, what are you doing?" And I feel like that changed a lot. Like, after, I remember that off season thinking I was some like health and nerd. Like, I'd hang out with my friends, and be like, my whole like nutritional vision changed after that.
Yeah, as a former skinny guy myself, I gotta say thank you for fighting the good fight on that one and have coming out on the right side of that. That's pretty cool though, because a lot of people don't even think about nutrition when they're thinking about athletics. They'll think about the mindset and the body, obviously, which are two major parts. Nutrition's huge. Like that decides whether you're gonna be healing, whether you're gonna be recovered for the next game, whether you're gonna be ready to play. Like the fact that you got taught that lesson so young is massive for you.
Yeah, I think it was especially on the skin thing. I just eating more, I felt way better. Like it's like a whole new world. Like I still need to work on eating more too. Like it's like a constant thing that's just always gonna probably be with me as long as I'm playing baseball. But I feel like that helped a lot.
Yeah, one thing too is a lot of people don't realize how many calories they burn playing a sport. Like every time you play baseball, running around the bases is a ton, running to catch balls, even just hitting and swinging, you're sweating, you're losing calories, you're losing weight. So you have to eat more to kind of equalize that out. I know Michael Phelps pretty sure eats like 7 or 8,000, something insane like that a day. He's constantly swimming, constantly burning it off. And people don't realize that that's a massive part of athletics, just the fact that you have to continuously grow how much you're eating. So
Exactly.
yeah, James, one thing I wanted to ask you is when would you say was the time that you kind of fell in love with baseball and when you started realizing like, okay, I could see myself doing this for life?
So, like I said, I always loved baseball. Like me and my friends would play in the summers. We play with football literally in my backyard. We play for hours. Like I would I would have friends who were like they were my friends. I'd be like, okay, do you know anyone who like good at baseball? Like invite them to my backyard. We're playing wiffle ball. We'd have like we'd have lights in my backyard. My dad was super into like doing cool stuff our in nature. Basically, we'd have an ice rink in the winter in our backyard. We would hang lights in the trees so we could play with ball later. So that was kind of where I fell in love with baseball. But when I figured out I could really play in college, like I would say it was during COVID. Um, like before, I was always like, yeah, I love baseball, but I didn't really think about college at all. And during COVID, it was kind of like, all right, I have all this free time. What am I gonna do? And so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna work out and hit baseballs every day or throw or whatever it was. And yeah, that's kind of when I, I, my club coach also was like, that was the time where it's like thinking about college was right in there, and it was like, damn, I could really actually do this.
Yeah, I find it interesting that you brought up the COVID point during quarantine because more and more as I do these interviews, got 20 of them so far, but more and more as I do them, I start realizing that right during quarantine was where people separated between the boys and the men for who was going to be making the top level, collegiate level for their sport and who was just done in high school. Some people that I know personally, they went Division 1 for football. They're playing at URI. But the reason for that is that during quarantine, they found a gym in a garage, basically just worked out every single day there. But so many people who were supposed to be highly touted prospects kind of just gave up. They thought quarantine was for life. So I'm happy that you didn't do that. Separate yourself, put yourself in the upper echelon where kind of a little bit more work ethic than some other people. And one thing I noticed when I've been talking to you so far is kind of sounds like you and your dad are pretty close. Sounds like you guys have been a big part of each other's lives. So I wanted to kind of ask, how has he affected your development on the baseball field?
So I'd say he's never really been forcing me to play baseball, which is one thing I think that helped me to actually like baseball. He was always like he always coached me when I was a kid, which was good because I feel like he making it fun. He didn't really he was never like, all right, let's go hit off a tee and into a net. Like it was more like let's play wiffle ball or stuff like that. So I think it was always nice to know that he had like not high expectations, but he believed in me. And a lot of times, like I struggled, not I didn't even believe in myself. And it was nice to know that like him believing in me, like was like, oh wow, maybe I'm better than I thought. Like not in a way where I was kind of like doubting myself, but I just never really knew how like if I could be good or not. And he kind of like believed in me when I didn't. He showed me that I was good. So I think also he's also like a I think like he's more athletic than I am to this day, which is cool because he played like softball and he played hockey. He still plays softball and he plays basketball too. Like I thought it was cool that he played a bunch of sports and he always pushed me to play as many sports as possible. I pretty much tried everything and there was never like any, oh, you should quit this sport to just focus on baseball. I kind of figured that out on my own and he was always just there supporting my decisions.
Yeah, I like that you know it at the end how he would kind of push you to try new sports. But as you said earlier in that dialogue, that he didn't force you ever to try sports. It was on where you got to explore it yourself, and that didn't make it feel like it was a chore or a job. It was you learning what you loved. So I think that's the best way to do it. Because realistically, how many dads are hanging up lights throughout their yard so that their son can be playing t-ball a little bit later? Like that's a great parent right there. Love to see that.
Yeah, it's I every time I think about it, it's like wow, like he really just wants me to like play sports. Like it doesn't matter which or how good or whatever. Like just like we have a batting cage in our alleyway. Like how crazy is that? And I think that really helps me just taking advantage of that and using that to make things more fun. Where it's like maybe you could hit into a net, but let's have a batting cage in an alleyway. It was like super cool stuff like that.
Yeah, no, when passion is shown like that, that makes you love the sport. And I can't imagine how proud he is of you already. You've made it to D1. You're top level right now of your game. He has to be so impressed with you. And one thing too, you got very lucky you didn't get one of those dads who has like yelling matches with the umpire during a T-ball game or anything. You got one who is there because you're his son. He wants you to do good. So I'd love to see that. But one thing I was noticing, James, the reason I asked you when you fell in love with baseball, when you started realizing it, from what I could see, you were at the 2015 Division One NCAA baseball tournament in person, right? When Virginia won.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. So I want to know, was that kind of a moment where you got to see the top level play against the top level, and you started realizing how fun the game can really get when it's competitive on both sides, or how was that experience for you? Because I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, so this is also another story with my dad. We would always every year. I loved college baseball. I loved watching it, like even more than MLB. I don't know why. I felt like I could relate to like the players more for some reason. I felt they were more like personable, whatever. I just loved like the vibes of college baseball, like Omaha, everything about it just made me so happy. And like we would always travel to Omaha, which is only like a 6 hour drive. And when you're there, it's like the coolest place. Omaha for whatever the 2 weeks that it's the College World Series, it's so much fun. Like we'd go and watch games. There's like a fan fest. Like I just as a kid, it's the greatest place. And being there was kind of almost like motivation. Like wow, like I always thought like these players when I was super young, I was like, wow, these players are like so good. Like Dansby Swanson or uh, whoever was playing. I couldn't believe it. And then as I got older, it was like, wow, maybe I could play and at like the same level as those people or but I thought I like that was so far away. So like now playing it's like wow, maybe that could be a reality. Who knows?
Yeah, there's a chance that there's gonna be a kid who's watching you just like you watch those players, thinking, "Wow, I'd love to do that one day." And the insane thing about time is you never expect it to pass as quick as it does. Like everyone, I feel like remembers thinking like, "Oh, 2022, never making it to that. It's 2023 now. Like you're a Division One athlete, you're playing at the top of your game. Time goes quick."
Yeah, I feel like I I was literally like at the College World Series being a like a fan, like being oh my gosh, these guys are so old, like they're so good. They're throwing like 93, like they're so insane. But it's crazy how time flies like that. Yeah, and like that was just the thing that I loved, and it's crazy how it's almost like a real thing now.
Yeah, it's coming up. Baseball season coming up. And did you say 10 days? Is that when it starts?
Yeah, in I think 10 days, so the 17th.
Yeah, well, if you're watching, make sure you check out James on the Boston College Eagles. It's gonna be a great year this year. So, James, one thing I wanted to also ask you about, you wear number 37, or you're planning to wear number 37 this upcoming season, correct? Or is that not right?
Yeah, 37.
Okay, is there a reason behind the number 37, or is it kind of like this one just kind of looks cool when I wear it?
No, it's actually not a good story. It's like they asked me what number you want, and I was like, uh, I was kind of a stupid play by me. I picked a number who someone already has, and then I picked another number. I actually picked three numbers that were already taken. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have thought a little more about that, but yeah, 37. I've come to like it a little more, but it's definitely a freshman number.
Yeah, no, definitely. I wasn't sure. I was starting to make some connections that weren't there when I was doing my research. Wasn't sure if it was on to do with Thomas Woodruff, who wore that during the world or the College World Series that you were at. Was really hoping that I cracked the nut before this one. I was thinking I was doing some like high level investigative Sherlock Holmes type stuff for a minute, but we're not Nardwuar yet. One day we'll get there. But no, that definitely makes sense because some people like will
No,
have a
no.
yeah. Some people have a story where like number 11 was just a number they saw their whole time growing up or so, and that's why they chose it. But no, that definitely is fair. Just a freshman year number. Going to be moving on throughout the year, seeing what the new numbers you end up donning are. So since you ended up going, we talked a little bit about this before the interview. You went from the Midwest to the East Coast while I did the opposite move. What has kind of been some of the, not really culture shocks, but differences compared to your expectations that you've seen so far in Massachusetts?
One thing about Massachusetts. I don't know if this is just Massachusetts or maybe it's just college in general. I feel like everyone in Massachusetts like knows each other somehow, um, which is interesting because maybe that's just coming from the Midwest, but I think Massachusetts, Boston College especially, there's a lot of people whose grandparents came here, whatever, and like I don't know anyone here. So it's been interesting. I've kind of had to like I have friends from the team and they're like, oh, I know, and I'm like, how? Like, well, we live in Massachusetts. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, one thing is BC kind of has a feeder system where they have Boston College High School, where if you go to Boston College High School, you're guaranteed entry into BC. So a lot of them know each other from that. But also the fact is, I didn't realize till I came out here, this was a big culture shock for me. The size of Michigan compared to the size of Massachusetts, just not even comparable. Like Michigan is huge. I thought that you guys
Yeah,
would be the same as us, where it's like you drive 3 hours, you see the whole state. I'm terrible with geography. I should have known this before coming here. But it's like a 10-hour drive from tip to the bottom of Michigan. Like it's a big state. That's definitely a lot less spread out in
yeah.
Massachusetts.
I've noticed that like people were talking about, oh, let's go to New Jersey or let's go to Providence. Providence is only like 40 minutes away. Like that's insane. That's 40 minutes. If you drive 40 minutes from Chicago, the people 40 minutes from Chicago still say they're from Chicago. So the fact that Providence is 40 minutes away, like if that was Chicago, Providence people would be saying that they're from Boston or New York. Even New York is pretty close. It's crazy.
Yeah, the entire East Coast made up a lot of tiny states stacked on top of each other, so it can lead to that. Like you get to Maryland a couple hours even if you want. Seems like it should be way farther,
Yeah.
but yeah, very shocking for sure. Next, I want to ask you: is it true that you bat lefty but you throw righty? Is that something that's correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I hit lefty throw ready.
So how'd that kind of develop? Do you write with your left hand, and that's just kind of naturally how you bat, or was there kind of just an ambidextrous type thing right away?
So I always was a righty. So I'm a righty. I do everything with my right hand. I hit lefty. I think it's because another story with my dad. So he would when was teaching me how to hit, he is a righty. So he would stand on the right side of home plate. So well technically if you're looking at the field, it's like the left side, but he was a righty with the stance. And he would just say, stand in the other batter's box and just mirror me. So I was always a righty hitting lefty, which I think is an advantage because lefty, I don't know, lefty hitting is technically an advantage, I guess. I don't know. It's probably the same, but
I kind of
yeah,
think it's like a
it's
southpaw in boxing a little bit.
yeah, it's like a little different, but I guess it's an advantage. I also because of baseball, I like if I were to when I like wakeboard or skateboard, or if I was to snowboard, I do it the opposite way of most people. So I stand like I'm hitting lefty.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that. What's funny, you and LeBron have a little bit of similarity in this. LeBron's naturally a lefty, but he's trained shooting ready, so you can tell feel they're a little bit like LeBron next time you talk to him. But so
Yeah,
James, for the
that's
final
great. I like
question,
that.
yeah, for the final question I wanted to ask you about. So what I could see, you're a pretty big Mario Super Sluggers fan. I'd want to ask about that a little bit. Is that a game that's kind of brought back to childhood a little bit?
Yeah, I love that game. That's my favorite game. Like my friends and I would like play that all day. We when it was probably in the winter when we couldn't play football, we'd be playing Mario Super Sluggers, and yeah, I have a ton of memories. I literally stand like I'm hitting a baseball when I swing, and yeah, I think I've that's probably the video game I've played most in my life.
No, that's awesome. I like that you mentioned the fact that you stand like you're actually swinging because memories like that with those type of games, they bring you so much closer to just your friends and all that type of stuff. You think back to days of innocence when you're just doing that all the time. I love to see that. So, James, unfortunately, the interview is going to be ending soon because it turns out there's a paywall now on Zoom where you can only record for 40 minutes. So, for during these last couple minutes, would you like to give a couple shouts to the people who have helped you get here, people who support you along the way, just anyone in general, really?
Well, I'd like to thank Michael Cunningham for putting this interview together. It was a great time. I think I think Michael's really got something. I'm excited for him and his career also. So, just a big thanks to Michael.
Okay. Yeah, I've got to say thanks to Michael too. He helped set this up. Thank you, Michael, if you're watching out there. This has been the episode 20 of the Jodas Hour featuring James Hackett from Boston College. Go Eagles this year, James. Excited to see what you do in the spring. Going to be checking up on you. Make sure if anything big happens, I post a little bit of an update. You are part of the Jodas Hour family now. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Joe. It was a great time.
Like 7 in the
entire
morning
room when that whiteboard was blank, nothing on the walls.
That'd be hilarious.
How was
Like,
it
fine, we'll do
changing
it.
that